Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just came out, and with its release I asked myself, what other JRPGs desperately need a remake? I quickly thought of 8 games that very much deserve a remaster or remake. Let me know in the comments what are some games you want to finally get a remake or remaster of. If you're missing some games on this list, don't forget to check out my other videos from last year. Alright, let's have some fun. Okay, let's get the most obvious one first. For many, Final Fantasy VI is the best game in the series and one of the greatest games of all time. While we already got multiple versions of FF6 and the Pixel Remaster version finally came to consoles last year, I still believe that a full-on remake would sell like crazy. Square Enix said that a remake in the style of 7 would take 20 years to make, which is just Square Enix being Square Enix, but hey. So I think 6 either needs a 2D HD remake with the style of graphics that made Octopath Traveler or Live Alive so incredibly beautiful, or get the same treatment that Star Ocean Second Story R got, with its fantastic mix of 2D pixel sprites and 3D environments. On top of that, voice acting would make this already atmospheric world and story even more engaging. Square Enix could also remove random encounters and make enemies visible. Quality of life improvements such as fast travel or quest markers would be great additions as well, as it could avoid a bit of the old school clunkiness. Combat wise, I personally wouldn't change anything, as it's great as it is. A Final Fantasy VI remake is a no-brainer, and I really think that one of the best games of all time deserves a great remake. Valkyrie Profile 2 is easily one of the most unique JRPGs I've ever played, but sadly it's stuck on the PS2 and that really needs to change. It's unique because, except for combat, this is a 2D side-scroller, making exploration and traversal feel very different than what most of us are used to. This allowed the game to have some fun puzzles, interesting platforming sections, and beautiful environments. I think Valkyrie Profile 2 deserves a remaster or even a remake, because although it's a great game, there are things about it that could be improved, like the combat. This was a turn-based tactical hybrid combat system, where enemies only move when you move. Getting to the best position to minimize incoming damage almost was a puzzle, and a necessity because enemies hit way too hard. So a redefined version of that combat system with less punishing enemies would do the game a lot of good. The convoluted equipment system could also use a revamp, as it forces players to spend too much time in the menu. Overall, Valkyrie Profile 2 is a weird but great game that deserves more love, and since Square Enix hasn't given up on the series yet, there's still hope that one day the second entry makes its way to modern consoles. The Sega classic Skies of Arcadia didn't really get the recognition it deserved. At least that's what most people who played it say. I actually never played it, which is one reason I want to see a remaster of it. Skies of Arcadia is a turn-based JRPG set in a world full of floating sky islands and sky pirates. From what I've heard, the story is lighthearted and joyful, the characters highly likable, and the world and music phenomenal. I think this deserves a remaster for a couple of reasons. The different versions on the Dreamcast and the GameCube offer different content that could finally come together in a remaster. Random encounters could either be reduced or even be swapped out for visible enemies. Also, quality of life improvements like a fast forward option would be great to have. And of course, the graphics could be improved, and I think the graphical style similar to Xenoblade Chronicles would be a perfect fit. Lastly, as with many games that aren't easily accessible, the prices for a copy of Skies of Arcadia are ridiculously high, so a remaster could finally end these stupid prices. Although I never played Skies of Arcadia, I have a weird nostalgia for it. There are rumors for a remaster, and I hope they're true. Lost Odyssey was one of the very few JRPGs exclusive to the Xbox 360, developed by a team around the creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi, and a soundtrack composed by legendary Nobuo Uematsu. Back in 2008, it got really good reviews, but sales never really took off, probably due to the Xbox exclusivity, which is why it's often considered a hidden gem. I think Lost Odyssey deserves a remaster simply because it deserves a second chance. Yes, you can play this via backwards compatibility, but a remaster could bring it to more modern systems and smooth out some of its rough edges. The graphics, for example, weren't consistently good, and I remember random encounters being a bit annoying sometimes. A remaster would also be a great chance to overhaul the sometimes wacky voice acting. Lost Odyssey is a fantastic game that, beside the rough edges I mentioned, aged really well, because its story is well written and the turn-based combat that requires you to make additional inputs to increase damage is still amongst the most engaging turn-based combat systems I've played. Lost Odyssey deserves a second chance, and I hope that it gets it at some point. I never played Xenogears, but I desperately want to. Sadly, this game isn't exactly easy to get at a low price. I think Xenogears is the perfect candidate for an elaborate remake for many reasons. First off, modern graphics in the likes of Final Fantasy VII Remake would be a perfect fit for its dark, mature and philosophical story. Xenogears was an ambitious title. Maybe even too ambitious because the infamous second disc mostly contained cutscenes instead of actual gameplay. It's speculated that the devs actually ran out of fundings, so the second disc felt kind of rushed. With an elaborate remake, this could finally change, bringing players the experience that does justice to the story, lore and characters. A remake could finally tell the story that was supposed to be told in 1998. Gameplay-wise, I can't think of anything that needs to be changed really. The turn-based combat system should stay, as it's very unique with its focus on flashy combos. Okay, maybe a remake could make the mech fights more action-heavy. Square Enix is the owner of the Xenogears trademark, so let's all hope they will do something with it. Honestly, there isn't much to say about this. Tales of the Abyss was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2005 in Japan and North America, and then on the 3DS in 2011. It's easily one of the fan favorites in the series, and deserves the same treatment that Tales of Vesperia got with its definitive edition in 2019. This one got a bunch of changes that would be perfect for Abyss, like a fully voiced story, 2 new characters and therefore reworked cutscenes to incorporate them, more bosses, new locations and dungeons, new skills, music and much more. Tales of the Abyss doesn't really need all of that, but changes like these could make it an enjoyable experience for those who already know it and those who never played it. Let's all just hope that Bandai Namco would treat it better than Tales of Symphonia. I don't know what's wrong with Capcom that they haven't already released remakes of Breath of Fire 1 to 4, but I hope they get to their senses at some point. Honestly, think about it, Capcom has been killing it in the last few years. They released 2 absolutely brilliant Monster Hunter games, remade 3 Resident Evil titles, 2 of which are easily amongst the best remakes of all time, released a fantastic 8th RE title, and the amazing Devil May Cry 5, and much more. Capcom was always a great studio, but the last years especially showed that they deliver one high quality game after another. And with JRPGs being as popular as they've never been before, it's a no-brainer that remakes of Breath of Fire 1 to 4 would sell like crazy. Beautiful cel-shaded graphics would be a perfect fit, and more elaborate combat system would be great to have as long as it stays turn-based. The first 2 games are available via Nintendo Switch Online, but 3 and 4 are stock on the PlayStation 1, and it's not exactly easy to get them, so it would be nice to finally play them on modern consoles. Capcom owns one of the most iconic and charming JRPG series ever, so hopefully they do something with it in the future. We started with Final Fantasy and we end with it. With the release of the Pixel remasters in 2023, the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy are the only mainline games in the series that are missing on modern PlayStation consoles, and that needs to change. Let's be honest here, none of these 3 games are masterpieces. In fact, every single one of them is weird and has some flaws. But on the other hand, all of them are still enjoyable and good games overall. They tell a hard to understand but still interesting story. All 3 games have an engaging turn-based action hybrid combat system that I really enjoy. I think the trilogy deserves a remaster with overhauled graphics, maybe some nice improvements such as a fast forward option, and maybe even a remastered soundtrack. One thing I wish a possible remaster would do is get rid of the progression limitations in Final Fantasy XIII. I know that they have streamlined the story experience, but I found them to be annoying and irritating. Other than that, there isn't really much that needs to be changed. Over the years, this trilogy got more and more love from fans, so it'd be so great to see these 3 games make their way to modern consoles in the form of a remaster. So there you have it, 8 games that need a remaster or remake. What games would you want to see a remaster or remake to? Let me know in the comments, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and hit the bell as well if you want to be kept up with everything going on this channel. Thanks so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.